good morning or afternoon or evening, whatever time it is that you are watching. Yeah, this is Whiskey and Wool. Welcome. This is my series called Knitter's Life, and it is episode 17. My name is Shannon, and I am coming to you from northern New Jersey in the U.S., and it is, it's 9/11. It's 9/11. What a sad day. Yeah, it's been 20 years. It's just so crazy. I remember it like it was just last week. But anyway, I don't want to get into that. This is a episode about knitting and spinning and sometimes crocheting and sometimes sewing. And yeah, I am so happy to spend a little time, to carve out a little time of my time to speak with you today about the crafting that I have been getting up to, and I hope you enjoy this episode, and thank you so much for being here, whether you are new to the channel or have been coming back time after time. I have a lot to share with you today because it's been 3 weeks instead of my usual 2 weeks. I spent last weekend away in El Paso visiting my little grandbaby and my son and my daughter-in-law, and it was just a really lovely visit and so nice to see her in the flesh and hug her and give her lots of kisses, and yeah, it was so much fun. Anyway, I am going to start off with the segment that I usually start off with, which is the Whiskey Chat. If you're not interested in watching the Whiskey Chat, I will tell you where to skip to. It is a segment that I'll be filming later on this afternoon. It is still morning here in New Jersey, and I just finished a huge cup of coffee. Too early for whiskey for me anyway, but if it's time for you to have whiskey, I hope you can sip along while I just chat with you about that. But nevertheless, if you're not interested, they usually run about 10 minutes. I'll tell you where to skip to right now. Hi, I'm going to do a little whiskey chat with you. Today I am tasting, and I'm going to talk with you about Loch Lomond 18 year. So Loch Lomond is a single malt, and as are most of the whiskeys that I taste on this channel. I'm going to pop pictures on as I tell you about them. Loch Lomond is part of Loch Lomond Distillery is part of Loch Lomond Group, and the group owns 3 distilleries. So Loch Lomond, Glen Scotia, and another one whose name I don't remember right now. But if I find it, I will pop it on screen for you. They say their story begins in 1772 with the founding of a distillery called Little Mill, and that was on the site of a brewery at Dunglass Castle in Bowling. It is still possibly the oldest distillery. That might be the 3rd one they have right now, Little Mill. I thought Little Mill was rolled into Loch Lomond, but let's keep reading. Let me keep telling you. It is possibly the oldest distillery in Scotland, with distilling at that site dating back to the 14th century. It is a few miles so Loch Lomond is a place in Scotland, and Loch Lomond is that lake is part of the separation between highlands and lowlands. So it's a unique region to have a distillery. Okay, the distillery changed hands several times before it was acquired by an American named Duncan Thomas, and he lived in a house at Little Mill for a while, and then finally built what is now the Loch Lomond Distillery in Alexandria, which is also like where the distillery is, where my whiskey was from. The inspiration for Loch Lomond Distillery comes from the physical beauty of the Highland region in which it is situated, and also the magnificent Ben Lomond mountain towers above the loch that look down on the distillery. There we go. The distillery itself opened in 1964, with production beginning the following year in 1965. In 1984, the distillery fell silent, or it closed, and then it was purchased by Alexander Bullock and Glen Katrine Company, and they resumed the production in 1987. Grain whiskey production began in 1993, with 2 new malt sills added in 1999. The grain distillery opened in 1994, and it was the only distillery in Scotland producing both grain and malt whiskey, and it also operates with 3 unique setups. They have an on-site cooperage, and their master cooper chooses which barrels will be used for the aging process. Oh my gosh, there's some gorgeous photos here. The barrels that are used for this 18-year are American oak barrels. They, on the website and in the information I could not find what was in the oak before they used them. So I'm not sure if it was sherry or if it was ex-bourbon casks or what. But we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out by the tasting. So we'll probably have a good idea upon tasting. This is a 46% alcohol single malt. Yeah. All right. I'm going to taste it, and then I have both what the distillery says it should taste like, which I don't want to read, before I taste, and then I also have an expert opinion on what it should taste like. So you can see it's a nice, beautiful coppery gold color, and yeah, I can smell it. It smells so good. Wow. Okay, very fruity, very fruit forward, like cherries and plums. There's a little bit of spice, just a hint. I would say there's some ginger, and there's another scent in there that I am having trouble placing. It might be the, it's almost butter, like pastry. Excuse me. I breathed in too deeply. Okay, let me taste it. I did put, I haven't done this in a while, so I just wanted to remind you, if you're new or newish, I put a few drops. This is poured directly from the bottle. It's a single ounce, and there are a few drops of water. Okay. I don't know why this came to mind, but I immediately thought of apricot and pastry for sure. There's chocolate in there. You actually get that right at the beginning. Yeah, chocolate, some sort of fruit, like I don't even know, plums or apricot. They taste lighter than the red fruits. I was smelling red fruit, but I think I'm tasting. Yeah, it's like there's chocolate, there's something in the middle, like a fruit taste in the middle, and then pastry. Okay. And then the finish, a little bit of heat from the spice. So like, I think it's ginger. Well, let's see. Let's see what the experts say. Okay. So from the distillery, this is what they say. Wow. Ooh, on the nose, I should be smelling green apple and grapefruit. So I missed the grapefruit again. Fused with mature oak character that comes through. Taste. Wooden notes with toasty oak. Cigar box becomes green fruit with apple and gooseberry. So apple. long finish with dried tea, tobacco leaf, and balance with in balance with soft medicinal peatiness and wood smoke. I don't. Okay, definitely I could taste the wood smoke, but I don't. I don't know that I taste tobacco. I guess it's sort of you could taste some nuances of that. All right, let's see what a expert says. Okay, here we go. By the way, this is a very affordable 18 year. It prices out around 80. Hang on, I want to say 80 pounds. I think it would be about $140. Okay, on the nose, woody. There's also maltiness here. It's supported by wood and leather, toasted cereals. Some of the stuff just does not make it sound very appetizing. Honey chocolate and pastry sweetness. Yes, I got that part. Along with some more unusual aromas, brassiness, fish sauce, caraway, and allspice. So there's the spice. Deeper, there's gingerbread and a few wisps of charred wood smoke. Okay, so that's on the nose. So that's what you should be smelling. There is a touch of citrus and apple. On the mouth, the taste. The arrival has a solid mouthful which straddles oiliness and creaminess. It delivers a rather quirky combination of milky toffee, dimmy sweet oranges, and orchard fruits. The wood influences seem high here, and among them a scattering of dried fruit like applesauce, or like apricots. So I got that. Yay. It's funny, that was exactly what came to mind as soon as I had it in my mouth. There's also cedar and plenty of cloves and white peppercorns that add to the dryness. Adding water will bring out some of the pastry notes, like yeasty buns and buttery toast. The finish is sweet with toffee and pungent with wood spice. That is very accurate. I like what the other website says. I'm reading the dramble.com for the tasting on this. It says Loch Lomond 18 takes the DNA of its younger 12-year-old stablemate and dials it up a few notches, and the result is a thought-provoking but at the same time possibly divisive. There are some challenging aromas and flavors here that highlight Lomond's funkiness and versatility, and I admire this non-conformity. But despite enjoying virtually all of Loch Lomond's recent expressions, especially the peated ones, this 18-year doesn't quite do it for me. This is according to not me. I actually really like it. I think it's very drinkable. It is an 18-year, and you do usually get, like the older a whiskey gets, the more and more woody tastes that will be in the flavors. In this case, we know it's American oak, so it seemed to impart, American oak is always sort of buttery, and you almost always get a pastry flavor or some bready cereal flavors from the American oak. But yeah, I couldn't give a guess. I don't know. It's probably not sherry casks, because sherry casks almost always give you red fruit flavors, and there aren't any red fruit flavors in this. So I'd be super curious to learn which what was in the oak casks before they put the whiskey in it to age. It might be something simple like Chardonnay or something like that, because a Chardonnay would probably lend some of those green fruits, like they were talking about the green apple in their tastes, and it could impart apricot, which I tasted. Sorry, I grew up in California, so I say apricots. I know some people say apricots. It's still the same fruit. It's these lovely little orange fruits that are very hard to get here on the East Coast because they don't grow regionally.
and they fall apart really fast. So we can find them dried, but we really very rarely, like maybe 1 week out of the year, can get them fresh. But I grew up eating them, so it was a taste that I was very familiar with. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this little whiskey chat. I hope you get a chance to enjoy a wee dram of your own at some point, and I will see you next time.
So hey, you're back. Let's get into the wool. I am going to start about talking with you about my finished objects. I have finished the Open Edge tee by Jessie Maed. It came out so cute, and I hope I get a chance to hope the weather stays the way it is right now. We're having like mid-70s. It's beautiful. I made it out of this wool right here. This is actually it's not wool. It's a silk linen blend by the company Yarn Love Yarn, or actually I think it's just Yarn Love. Yarn Love, but we call it Yarn Love Yarn because the brand is Yarn Love. And the colorway is Living Coral, and it is Princess Buttercup is the base. Yeah, silk linen blend. I've just worn this around on my work days. I am still working mostly remotely. I go to the office twice a week. I'm a university professor. We are so stressed out about the Delta virus variant of COVID-19, and we're waiting for an explosion of cases. I don't think any of us believe that we will continue to meet our classes face to face for the whole semester. It's probably going to end pretty soon unless the variant stays under control. My area right now is doing pretty well. So in terms of the rest of the US, like in New Jersey, we're pretty good. But everyone went back to school this past week. I'm so happy that I was in El Paso and not dealing with some of the back to school outbreaks that have been happening. So anyway, I wore this in one of my home work from home, work remotely days, and yeah, it's super comfortable. I do need to be careful. I love V-necks, but V-necks are not good for recording. So it is, it's a little low. It's not too bad. But I think, if I really wanted it to be good for work, I probably should have shortened this armhole area. I followed the pattern exactly. I didn't make any modifications, with the exception of maybe making it a little bit longer. The wool, or it's not wool, but the yarn, the knitting also grew a little bit in the blocking, so I did gain a little length. But yeah, that is my Open Edge tee. Like the pattern. Pattern's very well written. Jessie Maed's patterns are very well written and easy to understand, and she gives you tips and tricks in it if you've never made any of her patterns. They're very good, and I think she has sort of a younger, maybe more hip, fashionable mind frame in terms of her design work. So I feel young. I feel youthful in this sweater. Even though it shows a little more than I like. And yeah, because what I was saying is that on Zoom, I have to be very careful. I've actually purchased a few more crew neck tops to wear that are good for work, because so many of my tops are V-necks, which in person works fine because they're seeing all of you, but on a Zoom call where they're just seeing this part, not so good. And I also finished the Golden Hour shawl, which Martha is wearing the Golden Hour shawl by Andrea Mowry, and I'm just going to spin it around so you can see the back and see more of it. This was such a fast knit. I finished the golden hour shawl. I just thought I would share it with you. It is currently on the blocking mats. Really stretching the utility of my blocking mats out to their ability. Yeah, it was really quick knit, super surprising. It is a DK / worsted weight shawl, so I guess that's part of it. And also it only used about 700 yards total, maybe slightly, no, I think it was 700. It was a little over 700 actually. Yeah, the only thing my only complaint, and it's really just me grumbling and being whiny, is the picot edge just takes forever. It took a few hours to bind off, and then pinning each and every, I did about every other picot point to get like a little bit of that edge and open up the lace on this shawl. That takes extra time, but you know, should be dry soonish, and then I can show you how it looks on the body or on Martha or both. Yeah, I think this is a great pattern for showcasing some special yarns. Like this was I really wanted to showcase this purpley pink yarn from Long Island Yarn and Farms, and it is basically from top to bottom used throughout the shawl. And then I also used this other unique self color changing skein here of hand spun. Colors look a little off because of the blue background. But yeah, that was also really cool. This fun fact, this skein here, this color changing hand spun that I made, this 3-ply, it was an experimentation that I did to see if I could make a color changing yarn the way that Dream State of Spin Cycle changes. So it was a DK weight, or like kind of heavy DK weight yarn that I ended up making a 3-ply in color change. And I have to say, like, both me and my viewers, when I did this experiment about a year and a half ago, we all thought it was kind of ugly because it was like going orange to green with pink. Like, it just wasn't, those aren't colors I would normally put together. But I think this shawl kind of shows that even sort of those like skeins that you're not sure really, you know, you like, can be used in such a way that they're, you know, it actually works for this pattern. And I think it's a good companion to this purpley pink from Long Island Yarn and Farm. The neutral colored yarns that you're seeing in there, I used what I had left over from Harrisville Tweed at the top. This like creamier color is Harrisville Tweed Daylight's line in the colorway Bloodshot. So it has like a slight pink heather. I don't think you can really, yeah, I guess you can sort of see it right there. There's a little bit of red in there. And then the other color here, the deeper beige, is from Wing and a Prayer, left over from my Spark cardigan pattern, or knit that I made last year. I had leftovers of 2 skeins. This used up one of them, so it was pretty nice. But yeah, just wanted to share with you some process patterns. And there's Mr. Meow. He will now guard the shawl as it lays here for, let's see if I can get him to look at the camera, for you know, the endurance of it drying. He just loves to lay next to, I don't know, I think it's something about his breed, British short hairs. They sort of like damp surroundings. I got my little fuzzy cat. A little tiny tent. It's so cute. And I just wanted to show you quickly that I made him a blanket out of my swatches, a little camp blanket. So this is, I just whip stitched them together, and not even a neat way. I just was making it look really rustic and fun. So just in case you're wondering what to do with your swatches, this was something that I had struck on. So, and then we just put it inside on the bottom, and he loves it. It's already covered in his fur. And yeah, my whips. I have so many whips. This is kind of funny, actually. I currently have 4 pullover sweaters in progress, and they're all pretty much past the armhole. Actually, they all are past the armhole, and I'm in this like body section where you're just kind of, some of them are mindless. 2 of them have some color work in them. But without further ado, let me get into, I'll actually start with the one that's furthest along. And this might be surprising to you because I only first showed this to you last week, or last episode. This is the Australis, I think it's pronounced Australis pullover by Paula Pereira. I had struggled a little bit with the embroidery, so only because there was some errata. I'm just going to show it to you nice and close. So you can see right here, that is just one strand where all the rest of the embroidery is multiple strands. The pattern, this is a pattern from Making Magazine, and the pattern had errata. So I did the first section. I think when I shared it with you last time, I had realized that there was errata. I just decided to check. I don't know what made me check, but I had done this first section here, and then I had done the second. I'd done the second time around where you do that embroidery stitch. So you do it as you're knitting. You don't do it afterwards. You do the whole thing, the bobbles, those petals, everything. I really love it though. I love the effect that it has. It's so pretty. Yeah, so I stopped working on it because I had to consider whether I wanted to rip back to correct it or whether I wanted to just maybe go back with a needle and some yarn, like doing it by hand later. So it turned out that I was just 1 row beyond the second time that I had made the petals, and I just decided to rip back to the row where I made those petals and leave these other ones this first time alone, because you can see it's just one. There's one petal there and then one on the back. So I just decided that it made more sense to just leave that, and I don't even think I'm going to go back and correct it because I think it looks fine. It's so little, it's just such a small amount. I think, a correction might be more obvious that it's a correction than fixing it. So yeah, I don't think anyone notices. And probably once I block this too, this yarn is going to bloom a bit in the blocking, so it'll probably really poof out and then maybe it won't even be noticeable. So yeah, I took this with me on my trip. I corrected that mistake row where the errata the second time, and then I took it on the trip with me, and I ended up, it turns out when you just have one thing to knit for a week, you knit a lot of it. So that is how I ended up knitting so much of the body. I have a couple more inches to knit, and then I will do the ribbing and then the sleeves, and this will be done. And the sleeves do have a little bit of this embroidery detail on the, or knitted embroidery detail on the sleeve. Funny enough, like back in the spring when this Making Magazine first came out, I saw the sweater. I really wanted to make it, and then I was perusing classes that were being offered by different virtual events, and Paula Pereira was teaching for Knit and Escape a workshop on how to do this technique. So I had done it, and I had done it in class, and I had a sample, and I, as soon as she talked about how to do it, I realized that it was fairly simple. It's just slow. It's a slow process, but you're not doing the entire sweater, so it doesn't make it, it doesn't seem too bad to do it. And I think it's just such a beautiful effect. And I love the asymmetry of the placement. Like, she figured all that out for us. We didn't have to think too much about that. And yeah, what else can I tell you? I can tell you about the yarn. The yarn is another show special yarn from John Arbin. Sorry, wait, my computer shut off, so I couldn't see if you're seeing this clearly. It's this special from EYF, from Edinburgh Yarn Festival, the very last one, which was in 2019. So John Arbin for that festival did a show special called Cocktails, and he was selling comb top as well as the yarn. At that point, I didn't spin. Funny enough, I learned to spin the next month. I began to spend like in April of 2019. And anyway, so I bought yarn, and I chose the colorway White Russian. This is a blend of Coriadel, natural gray alpaca, and silk. So it's a 60-30-10 blend. So it has a lot of drape. It's actually quite nice. I think it's perfect for this design. So yeah, it's super soft and drapey. Yeah, so excited that this is pretty close to being finished. It's actually been since I've been home. I've been home about 2 days. It's pretty much all I've been knitting on in that time period. So hopefully we'll be finished the next time I see you. I really want a lot of these to be finished the next time I see you. The other sweater. Oh, I have a new bag. I got a new bag from Amy of Fat Squirrel Fiber Company. Is that what she calls herself? I know it's Fat Squirrel. Yeah, Fat Squirrel. She makes project bags and has a YouTube channel that she just said, I watched her latest episode, and she said she's been doing her channel for, I think, a decade, for I think 10 years. It's just crazy to me. But how cute is this? This is my cute little new Halloween bag, sweater size. So adorable. And she makes really well done bags. They're all completely lined. Often she'll put like a fun lining in. This one she just did a plain muslin canvas in there. So, and it is holding my, oh my gosh, I think I'm Mesa maybe sweater. I don't remember the designer's name, but I'm going to pop it on screen right now, as well as the spelling. This is a free pattern. I found it through Ravelry. You can click a link and download it. One word of warning though, it is not a broad size range. I am actually knitting the extra large. I'm a 40-inch bust, and I typically knit like a 42 to 46 inch sweater. So, and the extra large is a 46. So the only way to knit this bigger without having to fudge too much would be to just go up yarn thickness and needle sizes to get the size that you may need if you need a bigger size. There is one size bigger than the size I'm making. And I think I'm going for like the 46 inch bust. So that's kind of a bummer about it, but it's an older pattern where size ranges, they just weren't that good at making sure that the size ranges were inclusive. So apologies for that. But yeah, this is a sweater that I have had in my plans to knit for almost a year. I really wanted to make a green sweater with a graphic black and white color work yoke, and this fit the bill. There is so I'm pretty far on this too. I probably have another couple inches as well before it I do the trim. The trim will have this pattern, this like black and alternating black and white rib. It is a row of knit in the white and then 2 pearls in the black. So it's kind of an interesting pattern. The pattern has also waist shaping, which I'm skipping. I want to do a more boxy cut. I want to do like the similar cut to the sweater that I'm wearing. And there's also, I think this same color work pattern is on the sleeve. So it is a long sleeve. It's supposed to be inspired by the 50s, those sort of bold graphic patterns of the 50s. And I actually think, I think the waist shaping was very typical in the 50s, but I think the boxy cut will make it a little more modern. Certainly what I want to wear. The yarn for this it's my first time knitting with Rama yarn. So this is a Norwegian yarn company, and I am knitting it in fennel. This green color is a new-ish heather, green heather. I don't know if you can see. Yeah, I think you can see the heather there. And it is the color number 4122, and then the black and white they also have color numbers. I don't have them with me, but it's easy to find the black and the white. The white is pretty stark, kind of a soft white, not incredibly yellowy, and not optic white either. So yeah, that is my second whip, second pullover sweater. I have made a little bit of progress on Spots by Anne Vinzel. Tiny bit. I made it past I can't remember if I had made it past the armhole. I made it just past the armhole. So there's my little side seam. But yeah, there's Spots. Spots is another pattern that you can't get it on Ravelry. You do pay for it. You go to Anne Vinzel's website to get it. She doesn't have any of her patterns. She has a handful of patterns on Ravelry, but her most recent patterns are all through her website. I found it a little bit frustrating knitting this sweater because there were some mistakes in the pattern, and I felt that if it had been accessible through Ravelry, at least I would have been able to read what other knitters' experiences were, because there were some frustrating mistakes, and it kind of made me move more slowly on it than I would have, because I just didn't want to continue to find mistakes in it. But so far so good. I think I made it past, like, most of the errors are in the top. There is a provisional cast on for the neck, so you come back and knit the rib knit collar later, and then she has you do, I've never done a sweater this way where you only cast on a portion of the back of the neckline, and then you continue to add stitches to create the front. But I believe that doing it that way helps keep these graphic triangles lined up horizontally to the ground instead of creating a curve, which often happens in color work yokes scenario. So I think that was the philosophy behind doing this type of neck. The errors, if you're curious, if you want to knit this pattern and you want to see the errors, I have written detailed notes. I keep pretty detailed notes on most of my projects, as if there's no notes, that means that there was no changes to how the pattern was written, because I do it for myself more than I do it for you, so you can benefit from it, because it just helps me. I used Ravelry as a database for all my projects, so that I can easily go back and refer to them. I mean, Anne Vinzel has lots of beautiful patterns, and I suspect that the construction of the neck and armholes and stuff is probably pretty similar, because many of them are graphic the way that this sweater is graphic. I think it's going to be really pretty. I think it's going to be a really nice sweater. It's going to be very thick, because it's all over color work, albeit the color work is quite simple. It's just this little triangle dot pattern. And the change in yarn that you're seeing, or change in color that you're seeing, is in the yarn. The yarn that I'm using is, I also sized up in terms of yarn. The pattern is written for fingering weight. I am using Sport. It's written for a fingering weight and a strand of mohair to be held together. I'm using a Sport weight, so I'm making the size small. I think there's 6 or 7 sizes. So extra small, medium, large, extra large, XXL in there. And I ended up making the size small because I'm using a heavier weight yarn. And the color that you're seeing there is this. This is some hand spun Corriedale this was the first sweater quantity that I spun, and again, I just learned how to spin 2 years ago. And this particular yarn was kind of ropey because it was my first time spinning, so it was kind of stiff and ropey, and I had thought I would make an all over sweater in it, but I decided against it, and just thought it would be really great in as a accent color in here in this sweater. So yeah, the main color is from Camilla Fiber Company, and it is the colorway Clay Dust, which I bought in the spring. I bought the mohair and the sport weight superwash merino together, and with the idea that I would make something out of it. I had no idea exactly what, but a lot of people were knitting like kind of blush colors, and I was having FOMO, fear of missing out, and so I bought myself a sweater's quantity. It was around the time that there was a lot of violence against Asian folks, and the woman who owns Camilla Fiber Company was doing a collection for the Stop Asian Hate organization, and she was donating a portion of every sale in a week or 2 week period. So that was when I bought that to support that organization, as well as, satisfy one of my own needs, I guess, I guess that's the way it works, right? It's the way it goes. All right, my fourth pullover sweater that is a work in progress is my Christmas sweater from last year. I had made a decision at the beginning of this year to work my way through my languishing whips. So this has been a languishing whip for me for all of this year. What happened was I was knitting away in good time and stuff to finish this Christmas sweater in time to wear for the month of December, and I got derailed by gift knitting as well as by the mystery cal that Stephen West does every year. I hadn't done it for a couple years, so I decided to go ahead and join the cal if I had the yarn, and I had yarn, so I went ahead and joined it, and it kind of derailed me from some of my Christmas knits. Long story short, I did not get this sweater done, so I pulled it back out before my trip last week and decided to, get back to it now. So I am all about the Christmas knitting right now. So I want to show you a couple other things that I have in the works. Oh, this is another Fat Squirrel bag that I think I bought it last year, or maybe the year before. I believe it was last year, but this was one of her Christmas collection bags. So cute, so cute with these gnomes and the wildlife. And my sweater's been sitting in it ever since I put it in there. Like, Christmas came and went, and I just put this away because I lost interest in finishing it, since I wasn't going to be able to wear it for another year. So if you're a longtime viewer and you watched last year, this will be familiar. This is a Shifty by Andrea Mowry, and I'm knitting it in Christmas colors. And I'll go through them. I think I put a few rows on it before since I've taken it out of storage. And I'm just simply striping a red indie dyed yarn with a green indie dyed yarn. I actually have two red indie dyed yarns, which I don't know, the top is one color and the bottom is another. I don't know if you can really tell. I don't think you can. I think this one's a little brighter. And the only reason I'm using two is because one of the colors, the brighter one, this one, I didn't have a full skein. So I decided just to alternate them to stretch the yarn. Well, let me start with the base. This is a yarn that actually you can get it now if you like it. It is this colorway called Patisserie by Stranded Dye Works. It is a very pale blush with that is gently speckled with I think you can see it better on this skein. Some brown and gold speckles and some deep pink speckles. It's really pretty. And I just thought I had a sweater's quantity of it Actually, no, I think I only had one skein, and I ended up buying a couple more when she was dyeing them last year. And I also bought, this is a color, one of her Christmas colors from last year, which I'm sure she'll be making more Christmas colors because she seems to enjoy that. This is a colorway called Christmas is Canceled. So this is my more muted Christmas color, and then the bright red Christmas color, and then the brighter red is this one, so you can kind of see them side by side. This is a colorway from Lavender Loon, which I had in my stash. I had used it in another Christmas sweater, but I only used a dab. It is, I don't have the, it's called Holly Drama. She has not dyed this, I don't think, for a few years. This may have been one, this is one that I bought 3 or 4 years ago around Christmas time, not knowing what I was going to do with it, and I ended up using it in some color work, but it used such a small amount. I ended up like having a pretty significant amount, though probably not enough for an entire sweater. And then the green is this very bright color from Garn Story called Grinch. So it's like a variegated green, but perfect for this project. So yeah, that is my shifty. Yesterday, I cast on the Sparks sock pattern by Andrea Mowry. It's based on her Spark cardigan that she released last year. And this morning, as I just knit a little bit, I started to have some doubts about the yarn choices. So I chose Spin Cycle as per the pattern, and then I chose a 100% superwash. This is actually from Teeny Button Studio. It was a mystery skein that I bought earlier this year for I think $15. You know, said however many you wanted, and yeah, she sent me this one along with I think I got 3, so I think there's 2 others. Anyway, yeah, I'm doubting the choices because, like, I realized that this morning that Spin Cycle's on the heel, and that's the place on a sock that gets the most wear when you wear them with shoes. And maybe these are socks that just aren't for wearing with shoes. I don't know. I don't know enough about sock, you know, the physics of socks, I guess, that are hand knit to know whether this is and whether these yarn choices are foolish or wise or somewhere in between. So I was planning to rip it back out, but then when I looked at the pattern, I mean, these are what they're recommended. So, you know, maybe I shouldn't be guessing myself so much. So I do really want a small project to haul around. So yeah, I think I'm gonna just keep going and we'll see what happens. I'm like about there on the pattern, so I have just the cuff. I also really realized that I love knitting socks toe up rather than cuff down. So I don't know, we'll see how this goes. One more, this is actually a new cast on, one that I started, I don't know, before my trip, and I did take it on my trip, and I was able to make a pretty decent progress. This is Sparks pattern by Andrea Mowry. It is a sock pattern. You do a top-down color work pattern, and you do an afterthought heel, which I've never done, so I just followed her directions. The pattern directions are great, tell you exactly what to do. You knit a row with waist round or waist yarn, and you put in some lifelines, so that's what you're seeing there. So yeah, so it's not, one sock is not quite done because I do need to do the heel. Maybe some of you with more sock experience will be able to tell me. You do a Kitchener stitch toe, which I did, but it's sort of, I don't know, it looks a little loose, and I did leave the tail so I could go back and tighten it. I guess it looks okay when you open it up. I mean, it looks like it'll flatten out. you can see it. It's kind of a dark color. But maybe in the blocking it'll kind of stop. Is that normal? I guess that's my question. Is that normally what you see? Like, does it look a little loose to you? It looks a little loose to me. Is that normally what you see when you... I don't think I've ever kitchenered anything that came to up top like that. Because usually you put that inside if you have any sort of... But I followed what she said. She said to put the pearl sides together, yada yada. I don't know. I may go back and just pull the strand a little tighter, but we'll see. For now, it's fine. And I have cast on the second one. I find like doing this chart a little tedious. So, because you have to look, every row is different and you've got to look frequently. So, where this sort of, what do they call that? Lice pattern here is a little easier. So my thing with the Stephen West things, I have a bunch of superwash single and sometimes two colors and sometimes three colors, three of a color skeins behind me, and I try really hard not to buy superwash yarn in general because I have so much. So I always, if it's a pattern that calls for superwash, I try to find something in my stash first and then go from there. So, I mean, I do have some superwash skeins coming, some indie dyed superwash skeins coming for Christmas in my Advent purchases. So I'll share those with you towards the end of the year for sure. But other than those, I have not bought any superwash yarn aside from, the Spots sweater yarn this entire year. So, yeah. So if I can find it in my stash, I will knit with it, and I will go ahead and make the Stephen West Mystery Knit Along. So I'm going to now contradict what I just said, because I did buy 2 skeins to make this colorway. So I want to show you now. And hey there. I thought I would just go over the colors that I'm choosing to do the Stephen West Make Along for 2020. You may notice that I have 6 skeins here. So let me go through what the yarns are, and then I'll talk to you about my process. I do need to get rid of one of them, so because it is a 5-color shawl. So the first color is, these are 2 50-gram skeins from Stress Knits. One is I Smell Snow and the other one is Over Coffee. I bought these last year at a sale that she was having. I just really, really wanted some of her yarn to sample and play with. So I bought, I don't remember if it was a set. I think it might have been a set of 50-gram skeins, like a set of 5 or something like that, or 6, something like that. So I just bought a bunch of them. And I've used them a little bit, and because it's small amounts. They look super tiny, but they are 50 grams. She calls them her halves. Okay, so that is one color that I'm thinking about using. I am planning to use both of them as one color because they are so similar. They're both super pale. They both have overtones of turquoise and pink. I Smell Snow has black speckles, where Over Coffee has like some mauvey bits in it, which I think you can kind of see there. I mean, they're both gorgeous, but I think in a shawl with a lot going on, they can be together as one color. The second color I have is from Stitch Together Studio. It is a color I bought last year with her 12 mini skein Advent. It was the full skein that came, so it's called Advent 2020 Twinkle Twinkle Baby. But it's basically like a cool minty green color with these neon green speckles and also some pink speckling, lots of speckling going on, and some pink moments in the yarn in terms of variegation. Very pretty. This is a Vita Lifestyle color that I just got specifically for this project, which I
don't like to do when I'm doing a mystery knit along, but I went ahead and did it anyway because I wanted to get the right color combo, because there's nothing worse than knitting something with colors that you're uncertain go together, and then you reach the end and you just hate the project. So didn't want to be in that boat. So I went ahead and purchased this color, which is called lemongrass. So it's probably still available in her shop. While I'm on her, I also bought this color. This is called Spade. And it is also a Vita Lifestyle. She's a dyer that's in Staten Island, New York, so she's not very far from where I live. I find that when I buy yarn from dyers that are in my area, it takes forever for things to get here. Like, I think I'm gonna get them in a couple days, and it takes like, I don't know, I get yarn faster from England or Ireland sometimes. The other color, the fifth color that I have here, is from Chelsea Yarns, Chelsea Luxe, from her Coop collection, which is a club she's been doing all year. This one I think is from April, and she's basically dyeing skeins inspired by her chickens or by photos of her chickens. It's called Megan. It came with Megan and Deegan. This just had the perfect sort of red, violet, fuchsia color that I thought would work great with these other tones here. And last, I have a tonal semi-solid from Life in the Long Grass. It is the colorway Damask. I've had it a long time, like a few years, probably 3 years or so, maybe longer. But yeah, just a sock weight yarn. These are all sock weights. They're either 80-20 or 75-25 in terms of their content. Yeah, so I have 6 colors. I am either going to do these 5, so this 5 here, or I'm doing this 5 here. I'm just not sure. I find that sometimes it's useful to have a nice neutral when you're doing Stephen's patterns, because it kind of gives the other colors some space to play. So I may end up doing these 5 instead of these 5. All right, let me take you through my process of picking colors is to lay out skeins, like pull out my single skeins, kind of look for one that I think, he gave us some hints. He said use semi-solids or tonal colors, and I don't have a lot of those. I have a lot of speckled yarns, a lot of single skeins of speckled yarns, not a lot of solid. So I just started pulling out what I had and laying them out and thinking, he said we could use a couple speckles, so these 2 would be the speckles. He just said you didn't want to do all speckles because it will end up being too blendy. So I'm assuming that there's going to be some sort of graphic patterning color work that we're going to be doing in this sweater pattern. So, yeah, so I feel pretty confident with at least 3 tonals and 2 speckles. I think I'll be fine. I did have some solids. I have a solid that's similar to this, and I did lay it out as I was trying to figure out which yarns to settle on, and I think this is the way to go. So after I sort of figure out what I think I'm gonna do, I will cross-check on my color wheel just to make sure that I am pulling together colors that are going to play well together. So in this case, I know that I love this red violet family. So that's what you're getting there. I also know that I love blue greens. So that's what you're getting both there and over here. So this is really in the blue-green family, even though it is borrowing a little bit from green and from yellow-green to make up the skein. So I basically have something that's like right in here, as well as something that is really right in here. Because if you look at the speckles here, they are really violet colored, and maybe a hint of blue violet, but we're really like right in those 2 colors. So then the complementary color to those 2, if you look at this, there's a triangle that makes a triad. So I've got blue, green, red, violet. Those are 2 I know I love, and they play well together. the complementary color in the dryad or the triad is this yellow orange, which is exactly what this lemongrass from Vita Lifestyle. I was going to call her Vita Loca, but it's Vita Lifestyle. It's right exactly there. So you can see that I have pulled together this triad with, you know, more heavy on the blue-green in this sort of blue-green area, which is I'm fine with. This color is also in that red-violet zone. See that? It's just a little bit lighter tint than what we have right there. So yeah, if I did these 5, then I would have 2 red violet, 2 blue green, and 1 yellow orange. And if I do these, I've got a shawl that's going to come out a little bit more in the blue green side with some pops of red violet, pops of yellow orange, and then a nice neutral to maybe even out the way that the colors are playing together. I don't know if I've mentioned it before, but it's probably worth mentioning again. This pocket color wheel, which it's my go-to. Let me grab that and see what's going on with my colors. Is, it's got I bought it from Amazon. It was about $6. It's got a wealth of information on it about color, and it's a pretty cool tool, and you can rotate this. So if you love this color family here, this red-orange color family, you can see right away what colors work well with it. And most dyers will use this type of tool to figure out what should go together in the skein of yarn. And I actually have to say, like, it's a little frustrating sometimes when the dyer has done too good a job with this, where they've just made a yarn that has these colors, because it's hard to find colors that go with it. So you really just have to use the yarn. I've come across a couple skeins of yarn that I've purchased, and then I'll pull them out and say, oh, this is something that I really want to make something with, and try to put it together with another color, and there's nothing that really works with it, because it matches itself and contrasts with itself. But yeah, this is a great little tool. I highly recommend having one in your toolbox for you to, make sure that you're coming up with color palettes that will work really well together. Or you can just buy the Stephen West kit where he does the work for you. Drive band broke on my spinning wheel. So since I can't spin, I ordered a new one, and it should be here in a few days, I hope, like within a week. So since I can't spin, I have been spending time organizing fiber so that when the drive band comes, I can just get right into spinning. So I have prepped this right here. This is a merino silk blend from Into the World, and yeah, it is, I forget the name of it, oh my goodness, I do not remember the name, but I will put it on screen. What I'm going to do is a 3-ply fractal spin, because what I have found is that when there's a significant amount of silk in the blend, which this has 20%, I can spin it quite thin. So I'm going to try to do a fractal 3-ply. The fiber is hand-painted strips of blue alternating with green, and each Each strip has 4 sections, so 2 sections of blue, 2 sections of green. So I'm going to do a fractal. This will be my all one stretch bobbin. This bobbin will be in 5 parts, and this bobbin will be in 3 parts. So it'll be a 1, 3, 5 collection of 3-ply. So we'll see how that goes. And then I'm also going to spin this. This is going to be a 2-ply. It's going to be quite bright and neon-y. This is from Stitch Together Studio. It's a one of a kind. I had originally bought 8 ounces of this, but I used about 3 ounces to make this yarn. And this was I think it's a 2-ply with the neon, this neon, and white, just a white that had speckles. So it was mostly white skein. But this time around, I'm going to make at least, I have 2 skeins planned. So I am also going to do fractal, 1 solid strip, and then 1 that I'll be breaking down into either 2 to 4 parts. I really haven't quite decided. And I'll do them the same. So I should end up with some pretty significant yardage between the 2. And then from there, I have a loop fiber bump. This is an older bump that I bought. I want to say I bought it at Rhinebeck in 2019. But I'm going to do a 2-ply, just straight spin. So one bobbin will end up being like the first, I know it's kind of hard to see, but it'll be like the first 4 colors, and then the last 4 colors will be on the second bobbin. So it should be pretty interesting. It's an interesting mix of colors, mostly autumnal with a hot pink and it's sort of a chartreuse in it and an aqua. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what that looks like. And then last, I have these Fullworth silk blends from Kim Dye's yarn. Is it Kim Dye's yarn? Why am I completely blanking on what this? Yeah, Kim Dye's yarn. There we go. This is also 80/20, just like this one. So I'm going to see how this goes, see how I'm spinning that, and then that will inform how I spin this. I have 8 ounces of this gorgeous, like sort of dirty pink with autumnal colors mixed in. I have 8 ounces, which should be a sweater's quantity if I spin it fingering weight. So I'm going to see if this 3-ply ends up being fingering weight, then I'll make this also a 3-ply. If it ends up being heavier, then I'll probably just do a 2-ply here. So yeah, that's what I've been up to spinning wise. Okay, I realized I forgot to talk about what I spun in the narrative part of this recording, so I wanted to just tell you here. Here's what the Into the World merino silk club color, which was called Oberon. Here's what it spun up as. This is just a 2-ply. I didn't do any color management. I just let the fiber do what it wants. Oh no, sorry, it's a 3-ply. It is a 3-ply, and it came out to a straight fingering weight, so it's pretty nice. I really love it. It's so soft. I'll have to figure out something grand to do with it. Here is the Into the World fiber bump, and you can see that it basically spun up, making broad chunks of color. I would say, actually right here, you can see the 4 across the top, the 4 broad colors. So it was a total of 8 colors. That blended, and there is some transitional moments in there where the green, the mint is changing over to a bluish gray, and all of that. I don't know why this came out so, it's a 2-ply. I don't know why the skein came out so bumpy lumpy, but I'm gonna cake this and see what I get, and yeah, take it from there. So that is this is also a significant amount of yardage. I want to say it's about 500 yards, but I don't recall. And I did get a start on the Stitch Together Studio Bright pink colors. So this is what the fiber is. I have one bobbin completed. I have a second bobbin on my spinning wheel right now. So yeah, this is going to be a 2-ply, and I haven't quite done the Kim Dyes yarn. I haven't started that, but I will do this as a 3-ply because the merino silk as a 3-ply worked out to a, right in the middle of the road fingering weight. So I expect that 3-ply, 3-plying this Pullworth silk is the way to go. So I will do that. I also purchased some yarns for Christmas stocking. So I had made a stocking last year for my, by the way, I have stocking patterns. They were the very first patterns I ever published. I published them, I think, 3 or 4 years ago, but I had designed these stockings even before that. I made them for my own family, and people always see them and, oh, you should sell them, but I'm not into making knitted goods for sale, but certainly I'm happy to sell the pattern. So I published the patterns, and I have 2 of them. One is quite simple with some stripe variations, like solid and stripes. And then the other one has some snowflake designs. I have made other designs. So I have a tree design, and I have a snowman design and a bunny design. So I may publish that this year. I'm going to be making the tree design for my daughter-in-law. So I'm going to be using this. I'm lately using Loopy Mango Dream, which is a chunky, I want to say, they may call it, I don't think it's worsted. I don't think it's categorized as worsted, but the base is called Dream. But this is perfect for the yarn pattern that I have. I used some less expensive wool, I think Brown Sheep Company, for that pattern. It's all detailed in the pattern. So anyway, I'm going to use this for her main color, and this is going to be the tree. What's fun about the tree pattern is that with some little mini, commercially made pom-poms, or you can make them by hand if you love making pom-poms, you can decorate the tree pretty nicely. So I'm actually going to hold the tree together with some metallic yarn that I bought. So this is like this sort of unicorn, beautiful blue, pink, gold, silver tinsel yarn. So I'll be holding that together with the pink for the tree to make extra pizzazz. These I purchased from Halcyon Yarns in Maine. They sell 250 yard cones. They also sell big cones if you really want to. I think these are mostly for machine knitting, but you can certainly hold a strand together. I mean, I didn't need a lot. This pattern won't use a lot. You do need 2 skeins of the Dream to make the stocking. I used about a skein, 1.6 skeins on Julie's stocking. So yeah, I bought 2 skeins of this, and it's relatively inexpensive. I want to say I think I got it on sale. Some of it was $9, but some of them were $12. So it's a relatively inexpensive wool, and it's so soft and squishy. So these 2 will be the main, and this will be all the accents. So in this case, the tree for my daughter-in-law, and for my son, I am going to do a polar bear because my son and daughter-in-law both went to Bowdoin College, and the mascot is a polar bear. So I'm going to be graphing out a polar bear design, and his will be red with a white polar bear. And the stocking pattern is knit pretty much like a traditional sock, like you do a heel flap and stuff. So you could do a contrasting heel and toe. I don't think I have that written up in the pattern. I'm not sure exactly how I'm going to do that snowman. I need to sort of play around with some different ways of doing it, because you can do a silhouette of a polar bear, or you can do the polar bear face. My son seemed like he wanted the face rather than the silhouette, so I'm probably going to do the face, like just the face of a polar bear. Funny enough, the color white in the Dream yarn from Loopy Mango is called polar bear. The colorway white is called polar bear. And the red is, if you're interested in those color, Red Riding Hood. This bright pink, there is a softer pink, is called Spicy Hot Pink. And the tweed is called Flamingo. Yeah, so I'm going to mess around with those.
I have a little bit of extra. I had purchased this last year because I wasn't sure what I was going to do. This is the green called Army Green, which I think works well enough with the red. If you wanted to go brighter, they do have a bright sort of like similar to that Grinch green, like kind of this bright green in here, like that. They do have that color this year as well. But I don't know. I don't know what I'm gonna. I don't have plans for this green. I just purchased it last year because I wasn't sure what I was doing for Julie, and I ended up making for her. You can see it on my project page, the finished pattern. I'll pop a picture in here if I remember, but I used this very soft sort of Victorian-esque mauvey pink on for Julie's stocking, and so yeah, I think these will hang very well together. I may make them one extra just to have for maybe a guest or whatever. For me, if I go. Yeah, and so yeah, that is all of my yarny content. I do have a teeny bit of self-care that I'm gonna chat with you about. So self-care, I haven't really talked much about self-care in terms of like beauty, I guess. So I wanted to just shift back to that. I pulled a new product. I got a new product. This is from one of my favorite Korean websites. So it's called Soko Glam, and this brand called Then I Met You. I have in this brand I have a face cleanser, which is amazing. So as soon as I'm done recording, I'm going to be washing makeup off my face and doing this facial mask treatment. This is called Rose Resurfacing, and it has a lactic acid, salicylic acid, and rose petals in it. It smells so good. So my paddle is in there. It's a little gunked up, but yeah, so it's got like, I think you can see better maybe on the lid. It has some rose in it, but it just does a really great job. It's an exfoliating mask, and you can only use it once a week. You should only use it once a week. It can be kind of irritating. When I first got it, I used it like every other day for about almost a week, and I started to get a little bit of irritation under my eyes. Just your skin is a little more sensitive there. But it's a really nice product. I have been putting it on when I get out of the shower, and just like get out of the shower, my hair is still in a towel, and put that on. You have to leave it on for 10 minutes. But I really like it. It's a product that I enjoy. What I love about Southern Korean beauty products is that they are generally less expensive than beauty products that you can get here, even if you're importing them. And if you are lucky enough to live in an area that has a Southern Korean, any sort of Korean sort of department store, like I remember visiting one when I was in Vancouver a few years ago, and there's some local to me. There's actually a Japanese shopping like market, like everything kind of market, and sometimes they have some Korean products. But yeah, if you're lucky enough to have a store that sells Korean products, lucky you. You can probably find a lot of these beauty products just right there in that store. Otherwise, you can buy it from Soko Glam online, like I do most of the time. So yeah, it's a really great little like refresher. Like I feel like my skin has been looking so tired, as just as we're changing seasons and stuff, and yeah, I was just ready for something to really just maybe put a little more glow in my skin, and yeah, I love that product. Highly recommend it. Okay, well, I am going to end this now. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. I hope you liked the little color lesson that I did, and you enjoyed some of the extra footage that I put in of my walking around the garden. Yeah, anyway, enjoy the rest of your weekend if you're watching this and it's still the weekend, or your week, and I look forward to seeing you again real soon. Bye!